They said the farmhouse carried a curse. Its windows stared like blind eyes into the void, and its walls whispered in a language no living voice could form. Still, Daniel Crane bought it, a father desperate to build a quiet life for his daughter beneath a familiar sky. 3 weeks later, when he returned, the air inside shimmered like distant starlight, and 2 figures waited in his kitchen. Women, or something close, skin tinted like dusk, eyes reflecting entire galaxies. They didn't flee. They didn't speak an apology. They simply looked at him and said one word that changed everything: stay. Before the story unfolds, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more strange tales like this one, and drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? We read everyone. The old farmhouse stood like a relic of neglect, its siding silvered by rain and years. Daniel's pickup rumbled down the overgrown path, dust swirling in the pale October light. In the passenger seat, his daughter Sophie pressed her forehead to the window. "It looks haunted," she said, half awed. "It looks like home," Daniel replied. 3 months since the divorce? 2 months since the layoff? 4 weeks since he signed the papers with money he didn't truly have. Inside, the air was thick with dust and stillness. Sophie's steps echoed across warped boards. Wallpaper hung in ribbons, exposing layers of forgotten patterns beneath. "Can I pick my room?" she asked, already bounding up the creaking stairs. Daniel wandered through each room, mentally listing repairs, water stains, loose railings, windows that rattled in their frames. In the back parlor, he found something peculiar, a mirror far too clean for a place so decayed. For a heartbeat, its reflection moved slower than he did, as though reality itself hesitated. He blinked. It was fine now, just a mirror. "Dad," Sophie's voice carried from upstairs. "There's a weird symbol on the wall." He found her pointing toward carved spirals above the headboard, etched deep into the plaster. They seemed to shift if he stared too long. "Probably some artsy old owner," he said. "Can it still be my room?" "It's all yours." They spent hours measuring and planning. By sunset, the windows glowed amber, and Daniel stood on the porch, feeling something heavy beneath the land, as if the ground itself was listening. When he locked up, a flicker of light caught his eye in the upstairs window. Not gold from the setting sun, but cold blue and star-bright. 3 days later, an old coworker called with a contracting job 2 states away. Good pay for 2 weeks. Daniel hated leaving Sophie with her mother, but bills didn't wait for sentiment. 2 weeks stretched into 3. Every night Sophie told him about strange dreams, women singing in voices like wind chimes. When the work finally ended, he drove home before dawn, road glittering under pale gold light. The farmhouse looked new. The paint less cracked, the air somehow different. His gut tightened. Squatters, maybe. He parked quietly. The door was unlocked. Inside, the smell of dust was gone, replaced by clean air and faint floral warmth. Wallpaper was smooth again. The floors no longer creaked. From the kitchen drifted the sound of voices, soft harmonic tones that vibrated in his chest. He stepped closer, then stopped. 2 women stood there, or rather, 2 beings. One's skin shimmered like violet dusk. The other glowed with a soft pearl hue. Their hair moved as though stirred by unseen tides. Eyes, vast, endless, reflected constellations unknown to any earthly sky. They turned toward him, calm and expectant. The violet one tilted her head. "Stay," she said. Behind them, the backroom door stood open, not to a mirror, but to a window revealing a sky of alien geometry and 3 silver moons. The pearl-skinned woman turned to the stove, tending something that sizzled softly. "You must be hungry," she said. "We made breakfast." Daniel gripped the doorway to steady himself. "This is my house." "It was empty," said the violet one. "We needed shelter." The house agreed. "Houses don't agree. I own this place. Do you own the wind?" The pearl woman asked. "Do you own the light that enters your windows?" "That's not the same," Daniel snapped. "You're trespassing." The violet woman smiled faintly. "And what will you tell them? That stars walked into your home?" Daniel's pulse hammered. "Where are you from?" "Far," said the pearl one, placing the pan on the counter. "Though far becomes meaningless once you know the paths between." Their garments looked grown, not made, seamless, organic. The air itself seemed alive with unseen power. "Between what?" Daniel asked quietly. "Between what you call real," said the violet woman. and what your kind has forgotten to see. This house, the violet woman said softly, exists where paths cross. Your kind find such places uncomfortable. Her gaze lingered on Daniel. You understand what it means to be an outsider. Daniel thought of the silence after his divorce, the empty inbox after losing his job, the PTA meetings where everyone else seemed to speak a language he couldn't follow. He gave a short, bitter laugh. I know what that's like, but that doesn't give you the right to break into my home. We didn't break anything, said the pearl-skinned woman, her tone calm, patient. We mended. Daniel hesitated. He looked again, really looked. The cracked tiles were whole. The warped boards lay even. The rusted sink shone like new. The room looked healed. That's not possible, he whispered. You keep using that word. The pearl-skinned woman said, moving toward the back room. Come, let me show you what else you think impossible. Every instinct told him to leave, but he followed. The back room had changed beyond reason. Smooth walls curved into a vaulted dome that shouldn't fit inside the house's frame. The far wall shimmered, revealing a skyline that bent logic, towers of glass and light rising like frozen symphonies. This is Valyria, the pearl-skinned woman said quietly, where we were born. Where we can never return. Why not? Daniel asked. Because we loved wrong, the violet-skinned woman replied, her voice stripped of humor. We chose each other when our people demanded something else. Arranged unions, genetic pairings, partnerships without love. We refused, and for that we were erased. They stood close, shoulders almost touching, and Daniel suddenly saw it. The rhythm between them, the way they breathed as one. You're together, he said. Yes, the pearl-skinned woman confirmed. And where we come from, that means exile. Or worse, so you came here? The house called to us, the violet-skinned woman said. When we fled through the dark between worlds, we felt this place, a beacon at the edge of both realities. We expected to die. Instead, we found shelter. Daniel's voice came out tight. My daughter lives here. If you stay, she'll see you. Children see truth long before adults remember how, the pearl-skinned woman said. The question is, do you trust her with it? I'm not sure I can even trust myself right now, Daniel admitted. No one ever is, the violet-skinned woman replied. That's not a reason to turn away. The pearl-skinned woman offered a hand, graceful, strange. Daniel stared at the luminous skin, the faint hum under her fingertips. I need coffee, he said finally. Then you tell me everything. Your names, your story, how any of this works. The pearl-skinned woman smiled. I'm Lyra. Nova, said the violet-skinned one. Daniel, he replied, shaking their hands. Their touch felt like silk charged with static. They sat around the table as sunlight poured through windows that hadn't been clean in years. The barn outside, once leaning, now stood perfectly upright. Nova caught him staring and smiled faintly. One truth at a time, she said. That's all anyone can handle. Sophie arrived that Tuesday afternoon, wrapped in the sharp scent of autumn. Daniel waited on the porch, nerves tight. Her mother's car rolled up, tires crunching gravel. Sophie jumped out and ran into his arms. Dad! He hugged her tight, catching Catherine's surprised glance at the house. You've been busy, she said. Had a little help, Daniel answered. When Catherine's car disappeared down the road, Sophie turned to him. She doesn't think we can do this. Then we'll prove her wrong. Ready to see your room? They had barely stepped inside when Sophie froze. Her gaze locked on the kitchen doorway. Lyra stood there holding a loaf of bread fresh from the oven. For 3 long heartbeats, no one moved. Then Sophie whispered, You're real. I thought you were dreams. Lyra knelt, her movements calm, deliberate. We're very real. My name is Lyra. My partner Nova is in the garden. We're friends of your father's. Sophie's eyes flicked over her. Iridescent skin, eyes like galaxies, hair that seemed to float. You're not from here. No, Lyra said. We're from very far away. How far? Far enough that your stars look unfamiliar to us. But you got here fast. We took a shortcut. Sophie tilted her head, thinking, Can I see? Daniel opened his mouth to say no, but Lyra looked to him. Do you trust me? He hesitated, then nodded. Sophie took Lyra's hand without fear. Together they stepped toward the back room. The wall shimmered again, showing that impossible skyline. Sophie stared in wonder. It's beautiful, she breathed, like someone built a city out of light and music. That's a very good description, Lyra said softly. Most adults can't see past the strangeness, but You see what it truly is. Because I'm not dumb, Sophie replied. Dad, did you know about this? I found out a few days ago, he said. I wanted to tell you. You could have just said so. I know weird stuff exists. I'm not a baby. She turned back to the portal. Can I go through? Both Daniel and Lyra answered at once. No? Absolutely not, added Nova from the doorway. The other side isn't safe. Sophie studied her, then asked with childlike directness, You two are together, right? Yes, Nova said evenly. Is that a problem? Why would it be? Sophie shrugged. My friend Ashley has two moms. People love who they love. Duh. Daniel felt something unclench in his chest. Your daughter is wise, Lyra murmured. She's also hungry, Sophie said. I smelled bread. Can we eat? And you have to tell me everything. They moved back to the kitchen. Sophie fired off questions faster than the women could answer. Dad kept this secret, she accused lightly. He was protecting you, said Lyra. He needed to know it was safe. Is it? Sophie asked. Safe, I mean? Nova met her gaze. Safer than the place we left. But we still miss home. Because they didn't like that you loved each other? Yes. Well, that's stupid, Sophie said simply. People who think like that are stupid. You can stay here, right, Dad? This house is huge. We could use roommates. Daniel looked at her, then at the two women, two beings from another world exiled for love. Standing in his kitchen making bread, he exhaled slowly. He said at last, Roommates. So you're from another planet, Daniel said, half smiling. That officially makes you the coolest roommates in human history. Sophie grinned. Wait until I tell Ashley. You can't tell anyone. Daniel cut in gently. Not even Ashley. This isn't just about being different, sweetheart. If people found out, scientists, soldiers, they'd come here. They'd take everything apart to understand it. Sophie's smile faded, but only for a moment. Then she nodded firmly. Okay, secret alien roommates. But that means you're family now. And family keeps each other's secrets. Lyra blinked, crystalline tears shimmering at the corners of her eyes. Nova reached out, taking Sophie's hand with a trembling smile. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing us as people, not as problems. You are people, Sophie said simply. Just people from really far away. That evening, the house glowed with laughter and light. All four of them worked in the kitchen. Daniel chopping vegetables, Sophie explaining how to twirl spaghetti on a fork, while Lyra and Nova taught her words in their language, soft tones that sounded like wind through crystal and far-off thunder. Later, Sophie curled between them on the couch, fighting sleep as the fire dimmed. Do you think you'll ever go home? She murmured. I don't know, Nova admitted. Home isn't safe anymore. Maybe one day? Then we'll help, Sophie said confidently. We'll figure it out together. That's what families do. Her eyes fluttered closed, sleep claiming her. Daniel lifted her gently, carried her upstairs and tucked her in. When he returned, Lyra and Nova stood in the back room, gazing at the shimmering portal, its light painting them in hues of longing and loss. She's extraordinary, Lyra whispered. She's 9. Daniel said softly, She doesn't understand what this means. She understands more than most adults, Nova replied. She knows we're living beings. That's enough, Daniel joined them. What happens if your people find you? Lyra didn't turn from the portal. Then we run again. But for now, this house feels like a place where we might finally stop. Beyond the field, something flickered. A tremor in reality, like heat over stone. Lyra's head snapped toward it, body taut. What was that? Daniel asked. Probably nothing, Lyra said, though her tone betrayed unease. A ripple in the threshold's balance. Or someone testing the path from the other side. Nova's voice dropped. They're searching for where we crossed. The quiet night suddenly felt fragile. Daniel thought of Sophie, asleep upstairs. How long do we have? Lyra hesitated. Could be days. Could be years. The gateway is complex, hard to track, but not impossible. He woke before dawn to soft light flickering under the backroom door. Lyra stood there, hands weaving through the air, tracing glowing patterns that shimmered like fireflies. You're maintaining the threshold, Daniel said. Yes, she answered without turning. It needs constant care. Left alone, it either grows until it consumes everything or collapses entirely. Can you show me? She gestured for him to come closer. Give me your hand. He hesitated, then obeyed. Lyra guided his hand through what seemed like empty space, and suddenly he felt it. The air wasn't empty at all. It rippled against his skin like silk under pressure. "What is that?" he asked, awed. "The tension between two realities," she said softly. "The pressure when separate spaces overlap. Humans don't feel it because you've been taught that space is empty, but emptiness is an illusion." She guided his hand in a slow spiral. The sensation deepened like touching invisible fabric that stretched and hummed. "This is impossible," Daniel breathed. "You keep saying that word," Lyra teased lightly. "Your species has potential far beyond what you believe. You've simply forgotten how to perceive it. Children like Sophie still can, that's why she adapts so easily. Can you teach me?" "With time. It requires patience and focus." They worked through the morning, light shifting across the walls as Lyra explained the nature of the gateway. "It isn't a door," she said. "It's a sustained point where distance collapses, a resonance between two matching realities. Your science understands matter and energy, but there's a third element just as powerful." Daniel frowned. "What's that?" "Intention," Lyra said. "Focused will shapes existence the way gravity shapes space." Daniel exhaled slowly. "That changes everything." "It doesn't rewrite your science," she said. "It completes it." Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Sophie burst in, hair wild. "Are we doing alien lessons?" "Can I learn too?" Daniel started to protest, but Lyra smiled. "If you wish." Within minutes, the room filled with laughter and questions. Sophie learned concepts in minutes that took Daniel hours to grasp. "She's a natural," Lyra said proudly. "With practice, she could become a navigator. Someone who can read and stabilize thresholds." Daniel's protective instincts flared. "Absolutely not." "She's 9? "Not now," Lyra said gently. "But the potential is real." They broke for lunch. Daniel noticed Nova moving with quiet unease, her gaze flicking toward the windows. "What's wrong?" he asked. "The resonance shifted overnight," she said. "Someone's probing from the other side." Daniel's pulse quickened. "How long before they find you?" "Hard to say," Lyra answered. "We should prepare. Plan for what happens if they come through." "Plan what?" "Protection," Nova said bluntly. "If Valyrian enforcers find the link, they'll extract us and eliminate anyone in their way." Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. "You mean me? And Sophie?" "Yes," Nova said softly. "They won't hesitate." "Then we close the portal," Daniel said. Lyra nodded. "That could work, but it would also destabilize the house. The threshold holds its structure together. If we shut it down completely, the dimensional field could collapse." "So we're trapped?" "Not if we find the third convergence point," Lyra said thoughtfully. "The carvings in Sophie's room refer to it. If we anchor the gateway across multiple sites, we could redirect it. Move it away from here." "Redirect it where?" Daniel asked. "Somewhere they can't follow," Nova said. "But it's risky. We don't know what exists beyond that point." Daniel stared at the glowing portal, heart pounding. "Then we'll find out together." Daniel's decision was firm. If there's even a chance this helps keep Sophie safe, we're doing it. That afternoon, all four gathered in Sophie's room. The spiral markings carved into the wall glimmered faintly under the afternoon light. Lyra traced their curves, her fingers leaving trails of dim blue glow. "These aren't decorations," she murmured. "They're coordinates encoded in a mathematical language older than either of our civilizations. Whoever left them understood how this house connects dimensions long before your species learned to write." Daniel frowned. "Can you read them?" "With time," Lyra said. They spent hours decoding the spirals. Sophie's sharp eyes caught things the adults missed. "Wait," she said suddenly, pointing. "That symbol isn't a coordinate, it's a date." Lyra blinked. "A date?" "In lunar cycles," Sophie explained. "Look, it matches the moon's phase changes." Lyra leaned closer, her expression tightening. "She's right. The markings predict when the third convergence will fully open." "When?" Daniel asked. 3 days from now." "The night of the full moon." Nova's face darkened. "That explains why the resonance has been rising. The portal network's becoming more visible. If Valyrian scouts are tracking it, they'll find us soon." "Then we use it," Daniel said. "We find the convergence first." 3 days. Enough time to prepare. That evening became a blur of preparation. Nova taught Daniel rudimentary combat moves in the yard under a fading sky. "They'll come armed," she warned. "Weapons that disrupt the nervous system before you even see them. Your military has nothing comparable, so our best chance is to run." "To run wisely," Nova said. "Preferably before they arrive." Daniel glanced at the farmhouse, the warm light flickering inside. Then we find where to run. 3 nights later, the full moon rose enormous and white gold above the fields. In Sophie's room, the spiral carvings pulsed as moonlight touched them. The air vibrated with invisible energy. "It's starting," Lyra breathed. The glow intensified until the far wall shimmered and melted away. Beyond it lay something impossible, a vast landscape of frozen light. Forests made of crystallized moments, rivers flowing with what looked like memories made liquid. The sky showed every point in time at once, past, present, and what might be. "What is that?" Daniel whispered. Lyra stared in awe. "The origin, the place where the universe first learned to exist as more than one thing." "Can we go through?" Sophie asked. Nova's head snapped toward the other portal, the one in the back room. Shadows moved beyond it, figures in armor, their weapons glowing faintly blue. "They found us," Nova said sharply. "Guards," Daniel grabbed Sophie's hand. "Then we go, now." "But we don't know what's out there," Lyra warned. "We know what's here," Daniel said grimly. "And I'm not letting them take anyone." Lyra went first, her form dissolving into light as she stepped through the wall. Nova followed, motioning urgently. Downstairs, heavy footsteps echoed, doors splintering, voices barking commands. "Go!" Daniel shouted. "Not without you," Sophie said, clutching his hand. They stepped through together. The world folded around them. Sound, light, and gravity collapsing into nothing and reassembling in a single breath. Then they stood in stillness. The air shimmered like liquid glass. Every footstep sent ripples through the fabric of time. Trees around them were made of moments, each leaf containing the reflection of a life lived, a choice made. The air tasted of copper and starlight. Behind them, the portal still hung open. Through it, Daniel saw armored figures flooding into the house, but none crossed over. Their weapons flickered uselessly. They can't enter, Lyra realized. This place is older than their science. Their machines don't function here. "How long will that last?" Daniel asked. "Long enough," Nova replied, scanning the crystalline forest. "But not forever." Sophie looked around, eyes wide. "So, where are we?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Somewhere between everything. A crossroads the universe hides from itself. And now we find out why someone wanted us to come here," Daniel said. They followed a faint path through the frozen grove. Every crystal trunk glowed with trapped echoes, moments suspended like insects in amber. A child's first laugh, a star's implosion, a city's birth. "Don't touch anything," Lyra warned. "This place exists outside normal time. Contact could rewrite your past or erase it entirely." Daniel swallowed hard. "What is this place?" "The archive," Lyra said. "A myth among scholars. A living vault where the universe stores every possible version of itself before collapsing them into one." Before Daniel could respond, a voice echoed through the stillness. "It's not a myth." They spun toward the sound. A figure stepped onto the path ahead, humanoid, yet constantly shifting. Their form wavered between male and female, young and old, solid and spectral. But their eyes stayed constant, deep, knowing, infinite. "Who are you?" Nova demanded, moving instinctively in front of Sophie. "I am the Keeper," the being said, "or what remains of those who once tended this archive. When the universe first learned to divide itself," Lyra's breath caught. "You left the markings." The Keeper inclined their head. "A trail of clues left long ago for those capable of understanding. The farmhouse you inhabit sits upon a crucial nexus. It connects not just worlds, but timelines and probabilities. None of you arrived there by accident." Daniel stepped forward. "What do you mean?" "The balance between realities is fading," the Keeper said. "The guardians who once maintained the boundaries are dying, forgotten by the worlds they protect. New ones must be chosen. The convergence brought you here to take their place." Lyra shook her head. "We're not guardians. We're fugitives." The Keeper's voice softened. "That's exactly why you were chosen. Guardians must know what it means to be unwanted, to live between worlds. Only those who faced rejection can truly preserve possibility." Sophie stepped out from behind her father, chin lifted. "Are you saying we're supposed to protect the universe?" The Keeper smiled gently, kneeling until their shifting eyes met hers. "You already are," they said, "by offering refuge across boundaries, by choosing compassion over fear. You've done what most worlds have forgotten how to do. You've kept potential alive. You chose aliens as your family," the Keeper said softly. "That choice ripples farther than you realize." Before Daniel could respond, Nova's voice cut in sharply. "The guards found our trace. They cannot follow you here," the Keeper replied. This realm existed long before their machines had meaning. But you're right, they remain a threat, unless you accept what I offer. Daniel's jaw tightened. And what exactly are you offering? Come threshold walkers, and said the keeper. Learn to travel not just between worlds, but between possibilities. The farmhouse will serve as your anchor, yet you'll be able to move through the entire convergence network. In return, you'll protect the balance, ensuring that potential remains open, not crushed into singular outcomes. Lyra's eyes darkened with understanding. Like Valeria, they built an empire on eliminating possibilities, on engineering perfection until nothing new could grow. Precisely, said the keeper. They are not evil, only consumed by control. Order taken too far becomes its own kind of chaos. Your task would be to preserve equilibrium, not destroy them. And if we refuse? Daniel asked. Then you'll keep running, the keeper said quietly. They'll eventually break through. You'll be captured or killed. The house will collapse under strain, and the universe will lose 3 souls who understood what it means to hold space for multiplicity. Their form began to fade, light scattering like dust. I cannot compel you. Guardians must choose willingly. Wait, Lyra said. If we accept, what happens to the guards? That will be for you to decide, the keeper answered. As guardians, you'll have tools they cannot comprehend. Command of resonance, knowledge of convergences, the ability to reshape the thresholds themselves. You could seal Valeria's access forever, or open a dialogue. Daniel looked at Lyra, Nova, and Sophie. Can we talk alone for a minute? The keeper inclined their head and dissolved into the surrounding glow. Silence filled the crystalline air. Sophie was the first to speak. We should do it, she said. It sounds amazing. It sounds dangerous, Daniel replied. We'd be taking on responsibility for everything. Boundaries between worlds we barely understand, but we could learn, Lyra said thoughtfully. With the keeper's knowledge, we could master the science of thresholds, turn it into something constructive. We wouldn't have to hide anymore. We'd finally have purpose. Nova nodded slowly. They hunt us because they see us as threats. But if we become guardians, we'd have authority. We could protect others instead of just surviving. Daniel shook his head. That's enormous. We'd be changing how entire universes interact. Sophie took his hand, her small fingers warm and certain. Dad, we're already changing things, just by existing, by helping them. The keeper's only asking us to do it on purpose. Daniel looked at her, then at the 2 women who had become part of their lives in ways he could no longer separate. If we do this, he said, we set rules. No one plays God. Agreed, Lyra said immediately. Guardians preserve, they don't dominate. And we stay united, Nova added. No one acts alone. Every choice is made together. Sophie smiled. Like a real family. Daniel felt the weight in his chest shift, an old ache giving way to something vast and bright. Then we do this together, he said softly. As a family. The keeper reappeared, light reforming into their shifting figure. You've chosen. We have, Lyra said. Then accept both the burden and the gift. They extended their hands, and one by one the keeper touched them. The contact felt like being rewritten at the level of reality itself. Knowledge poured through them. How to read dimensional tension, how to sense resonance, how to open or close paths with thought and intention. Daniel gasped, overwhelmed. Lyra and Nova clung to each other, their outlines blurring as their forms adjusted. Sophie laughed through tears. I can see it, she whispered. All the paths branching out forever. When it ended, they stood transformed. Subtle light flickered beneath their skin. You are no longer bound to what you were, said the keeper. You exist between now, maintaining the spaces where realities touch. The farmhouse will serve as your foundation. It will respond to your will. The guards outside still wait, lost in confusion. Go, show them what you've become. What about the house? Daniel asked. Stronger than before, the keeper said. Its structure now mirrors your connection. It will hide what must remain hidden, reveal what you choose. They cannot find it without your consent. Lyra bowed her head. Thank you. The keeper's form dissolved into light, leaving only stillness. Daniel exhaled, feeling the hum of infinite possibilities vibrating under his skin. So, he said, looking at the others, ready? Nova grinned. To face down the people who hunted us. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Absolutely. To go home, Sophie added softly. Because that's what it is now. Home. Daniel nodded. They had entered this journey as fugitives and strangers. They were returning as something else, guardians of possibility. Then let's show a few interdimensional soldiers what happens when they threaten a family, he said. They stepped through the shimmering threshold and reappeared in Sophie's room. The guards were already there, 5 of them, armored in radiant metal, weapons drawn. But when they turned, their movements faltered. The energy in the room had changed. Impossible, the lead guard said in a language Daniel suddenly understood without effort. They crossed the origin. No one survives that. Nova's eyes gleamed with quiet defiance. We're not just anyone anymore, she said. We are no longer fugitives, Lyra said, her voice carrying a harmonic undertone that vibrated through the room. The guards faltered at the resonance. We are threshold walkers, keepers of the balance between what is and what could be. The lead guard stepped forward, his armor pulsing faintly with light. Lyra of the Perceptive Line, Nova of the Warrior Caste. By decree of the Valyrian Genetic Council, you are guilty of hereditary sedition. Surrender for correction, or be extracted by force. I don't think so, Lyra replied evenly. Her tone was calm, but her hands moved through the air as if sculpting invisible clay. Reality flexed. The portal behind the guards began to contract, its edges folding inward like petals closing at dusk. What are you doing? One of them shouted, stepping back. Giving you a choice, Nova said, her voice firm. Go home. Tell your superiors that we're under protection now, by forces beyond their reach. Or stay here and see what happens to those who threaten the balance between worlds. You can't close a threshold, the commander barked. It violates every known Valyrian principle, Daniel interrupted, stepping forward with Sophie beside him. But your science is incomplete. We've seen the origin. We've spoken with the Keeper. We are the ones who maintain these boundaries now, and we're revoking Valyria's access to this convergence point. Uncertainty flickered across the guards' faces. Their weapons hummed with fading power. Last chance, Lyra warned as the portal shrank to the size of a dinner plate. Cross through or explain to your council why you failed. The lead guard hesitated only a second before motioning sharply. All 5 soldiers dove for the collapsing threshold, vanishing into its narrowing light. The portal sealed with a sound like the world taking a deep breath. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Sophie exhaled first. That, she whispered, was awesome. Can you teach me how to do that? In time, Lyra said gently, resting a hand on the wall where the portal had been. The glow had faded. Only ordinary plaster remained. But I hope we won't need to again. Guardians are meant to stabilize, not sever. So, what happens now? Nova asked. Daniel looked around at the house. His house, their house. Now we learn what this really means, he said. We figure out what it takes to keep these boundaries safe. And, Sophie added, we make this place feel like home. No more guards. No more hiding. Just us. They moved downstairs, stepping through the wreckage left by the guards. Splintered door frames, scorched flooring. But as Daniel watched, the damage began to heal. Wood straightened, glass reformed, metal unbent. It's responding to us, he murmured. The house knows our intentions, Lyra explained. We're woven into its pattern now. Its structure recognizes us. She touched the wall and a ripple of pale light spread outward like a heartbeat. It's a symbiosis, Sophie said softly. We help the house and it helps us. Exactly, Lyra smiled. The rest of the afternoon unfolded in quiet wonder. Nova discovered she could sense threats to the threshold network, disturbances in the fabric of reality like distant thunder. Lyra could extend her perception through the convergence lattice, feeling the pulse of other worlds. Sophie learned to speak with the house directly, her laughter echoing when the lights flickered playfully in reply. Daniel experimented too. He found he could rebuild by will alone. Walls shifted under his hands, structures adjusting to his thoughts. By sunset, the farmhouse stood whole again, bathed in amber light. Sophie insisted on making dinner. The pasta burned slightly, but no one cared. What do we tell people? Daniel asked as they ate around the kitchen table. We'll have neighbors, visitors eventually, Sophie shrugged. We tell them we have roommates, just roommates from really far away. Daniel chuckled. People will ask questions. Then we let them, she said simply. Not everyone needs every answer. Most grown-ups couldn't handle it anyway. She grinned at him. No offense. None taken. That night, Daniel stood on the back porch, watching the field shimmer with faint silver light. The visible hum of dimensional resonance. Lyra joined him, her presence quiet but steady. Do you regret it? She asked softly. Accepting this role? Daniel thought about it. My life was falling apart before. Marriage gone, job gone, everything I built collapsing. This girl isn't simpler, but it's real. It matters. I'm finally building something again. It won't always be peaceful, she warned. Guardianhood means vigilance. There will be challenges, things we can't yet imagine. Good, Daniel said, surprising himself. I'm tired of easy. Easy just means you've stopped trying. Lyra laughed, that same chime-like sound he'd heard the first night they met. Sophie's wisdom clearly runs in the family. Or maybe I'm just catching up to her, he said with a smile. They stood together, comfortable in silence. From inside came the sound of Sophie and Nova laughing. Warm, ordinary, grounding. Do you think they'll come back? He asked. Probably, Lyra said, but not as soldiers. They'll try diplomacy next. Conversation, maybe even understanding. Our existence challenges everything Valeria believes about perfection. They'll have to face their own contradictions. Daniel nodded, feeling the faint charge between them. A new connection waiting patiently at the edge of definition. We should sleep, he said finally. Tomorrow I'll have to figure out how to explain to Sophie's school why she might zone out while perceiving dimensional resonance. Lyra smiled. I don't think that's the kind of truth she meant. They went inside together, sealing the house with protective intention. Upstairs, Sophie slept peacefully, the faint shimmer of guardian light around her like a second blanket. Downstairs, Lyra and Nova rested together on the couch, two exiles no longer running. Daniel lingered in the doorway, feeling a pang that wasn't envy but recognition, a memory of belonging. He turned off the light, the house humming softly in response. Whatever came next, they would face it as a family, keepers of the in-between, guardians of what might be. They were a family now, bound not by blood or law, but by shared choice and the weight of cosmic responsibility. Daniel dreamed often of the crystalline forest, the place, beyond time, where he'd first understood what it meant to hold infinite possibilities in his hands. In those dreams, Sophie walked radiant among frozen moments, confident and curious. Lyra and Nova guided her gently, teaching her how to read the invisible seams between what was and what might be. And Daniel built bridges, vast and luminous, connecting worlds that had never touched. Somewhere in those dreams, he always heard the Keeper's voice echoing through eternity. Don't prove the universe wrong for choosing you. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the threshold chamber, gazing into the luminous vista of Valyrian cities glimmering under alien moons. The portal was smaller now, refined, its edges stable, shaped by intention rather than chance. Sophie dashed past him, chasing the neighborhood cat, a creature that had somehow learned to slip between dimensions like it was playing a game. The animal flickered in and out of existence, and Sophie's laughter followed like music. She's extraordinary, Nova said, appearing at his side. Your daughter already understands things that took us decades to grasp. The Keeper consults her now about theoretical convergence pathways. Daniel smiled. She's 9? Exactly, Nova replied with a small grin. 9 and already rewriting how Guardians think about thresholds. In the kitchen, Lyra was teaching Sophie's friend Ashley how to cultivate Valyrian flora, a kind of living vine that shimmered softly when touched. Ashley had visited 3 times now, taking the truth in stride. Her parents believed she was spending afternoons with Daniel's relatives from overseas. Technically, that wasn't wrong, if you defined overseas as interdimensional. The farmhouse had changed too. From the outside, it remained a modest relic of rural life. Inside, it was something else entirely. A living nexus. Hallways extended into corridors that shouldn't exist, connecting to convergence points spanning dozens of realities. They had become hosts to travelers, beings from distant worlds seeking sanctuary from systems that prized order above individuality. And sometimes, astonishingly, guests came from Valyria itself. Not soldiers this time, but diplomats and scholars. They're beginning to reconsider, Lyra had said after the last delegation, not dismantling their entire structure yet, but introducing exceptions, allowing choice where there used to be command. That's progress, Daniel had told her. It's a beginning, she'd said, and beginnings matter. Now, standing at the edge of the threshold chamber, Daniel watched his daughter chase a multi-dimensional cat and thought of his own beginning. Just a man. Broken and bankrupt, buying a decaying farmhouse out of desperation. He had found ruin, and in that ruin, the universe. Sophie appeared beside him, breathless and glowing, the cat draped across her shoulders like a living scarf. "Dad," she said excitedly, "Lyra says there's a convergence opening near Saturn. Can we go see it?" "I promise I'll finish my homework first." Daniel laughed. "Saturn's billions of miles away, kiddo." "Not if you traveled dimensionally," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's basically next door." He looked at her. The same child who used to fear thunder, now ready to step between worlds without hesitation. "Homework first," he said finally. "Then we'll take a family trip to Saturn." Sophie cheered and ran off to tell Ashley. Nova chuckled, shaking her head. "A family trip to Saturn? I never imagined I'd hear that sentence in my lifetime." Daniel's smile softened. "I never imagined any of this, but I wouldn't change it. Not one moment. Even the chaos brought us here." He gestured toward the house. The shimmering heart of their strange, miraculous existence. "We're proving something. That possibility matters more than perfection. That love matters more than design." Lyra joined them, her presence a quiet warmth beside his. 6 months of living together, working together, holding this fragile sanctuary, and still every glance between them felt like a promise waiting to be spoken. "The Keeper contacted me this morning," Lyra said. "Other Guardians are watching us. They're learning from what we've built here." "That sounds like pressure," Daniel said. "That sounds like purpose," she countered. "This is what we signed up for." Her smile carried the same light as the thresholds themselves, steady, radiant, full of wonder. "We're not just guardians of dimensional boundaries, Daniel. We're guardians of the idea that difference can coexist with peace." Through the window, fields stretched into the horizon, alive with unseen energy. Daniel saw them now not as simple land, but as the surface of something infinite, a crossroad where countless lives could meet. They had started as fragments. A father trying to hold his world together, 2 lovers exiled for loving freely, and a child wise enough to see beauty where others saw strangeness. Apart they were broken. Together they had become something whole. "Dad," Sophie called from the threshold chamber. "The Saturn convergence is stabilizing. We have to go soon," Daniel laughed, trading a glance with Lyra and Nova that said everything words couldn't. "Coming," he called back, heading toward the impossible with the only people who truly understood it. The farmhouse hummed quietly as they left, the living nexus content in its foundations. It had chosen well. These 4 would hold the balance, nurture connection, and remind the universe that home wasn't a place you found. It was something you built together, door by door, by choice. Outside, autumn leaves fell with the rhythm of wind and gravity. Inside, a family prepared to cross into new worlds, carrying the radical truth that different could mean beautiful instead of dangerous. And far away, in the crystalline archive where all possibilities slept, the Keeper smiled. The universe had chosen its guardians, and for once it had chosen well.